Do you ever find yourself replaying the same thought again and again? An old mistake, a future worry, something you can't control but can't let go of either. You lie awake, the house is quiet, but your mind won't stop talking. You're not alone. Most people don't suffer from what happens to them. They suffer from how they think about what happens to them. In this video, we'll explore why your mind won't let go, and how the ancient Stoics found peace in the middle of that storm. I'll walk you through the real reason overthinking takes over, and by the end, you'll have a clear Stoic method to calm your mind without fighting your thoughts. So stay with me until the end, because the solution isn't what you think it is. It's quieter, simpler, and it works. Before we begin, if you believe your peace of mind is worth protecting, hit that like button. It helps this message reach others who need it too. And subscribe if you want more Stoic lessons on living with strength, calm, and self-respect. Now, let's begin. Part 1. The noise inside your head. Have you ever noticed how your mind never seems to shut up? Even when the room is silent, your thoughts are louder than traffic. You replay conversations, question every decision. Imagine what could go wrong tomorrow. It's like your mind is a restless roommate, one that never pays rent, never stops talking, and keeps you awake at night. I once worked with a man in his 60s who said, "I've spent more time arguing with myself than living my life." That hit me hard, because that's what overthinking is, a war inside your own head. You fight yourself, and no one wins. The Stoics understood this long before we had therapy or self-help books. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who led armies and empires, wrote in his journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He was reminding himself that most suffering doesn't come from what happens, but from how we interpret it. Think about it. Someone cuts you off in traffic. The act itself lasts a second. But your mind? It can replay that moment all day, building stories about how rude people are, how unfair the world is. You carry that irritation like a stone in your shoe. Overthinking is not intelligence. It's imagination used against yourself. You're not solving problems, you're feeding them. A Stoic doesn't stop thinking. He simply thinks with order. He asks, "Is this thought useful?" If not, he lets it go. He knows the mind is like a garden, and worry is the weed that spreads if you don't pull it out early. When you start thinking like a Stoic, you stop chasing every thought that passes by. You learn to sit back and watch them, like clouds drifting across the sky. You realize you are not your thoughts. You are the observer behind them. So let me ask you this. How much of your life has been spent in your head, rehearsing problems that never happened? If this message feels close to home, take a breath. You're not broken. You're just human. But you can train the mind, the same way a soldier trains discipline. In the next part, we'll talk about how to turn that restless energy of overthinking into calm, rational thought, the way the Stoics did when life tested them. Before you move on, if this story speaks to you, give this video a like. It tells the algorithm, and me, that you value calm over chaos. Subscribe if you want more lessons on mastering your mind, not just surviving it. And tell me in the comments, what's one thought you've been replaying lately, and are you ready to let it go? Part 2. The difference between thinking and overthinking. There's a quiet line between thinking and overthinking, and most of us cross it without noticing. Thinking helps you move forward. Overthinking traps you in circles. One uses reason, the other uses fear. A man once told me, "I keep running scenarios in my head because I don't want to make the wrong move." I asked him, "And how long have you been running them?" He said, 20 years. That's the danger, mistaking mental motion for real progress. The Stoics saw this clearly. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." He meant that our minds are brilliant at creating storms out of clear skies. You replay what someone said, imagine what they meant, then invent 10 versions of how they might hurt you later. You're no longer living life. You're editing it, like a film that never ends. A Stoic doesn't avoid thought. He just refuses to let emotion drive it. When something happens, he pauses. He asks, "Is this within my control?" If yes, he acts with reason. If no, he accepts with calm. Simple, not easy. Overthinkers try to control the uncontrollable, people's opinions, the future, the past. Stoics spend that energy mastering themselves. They don't waste time trying to predict every outcome. They prepare for all, accept what comes, and keep walking. You see, the more you chase certainty, the more anxious you become. Life will always be uncertain, but your response doesn't have to be. That's where Stoicism becomes powerful. It teaches you to anchor your peace not in what happens, but in how you meet it. Imagine this. Two sailors face the same storm. One panics, shouting at the waves. The other tightens the ropes and stays silent. The storm doesn't care, but the second sailor survives it with dignity. That's the Stoic difference. Calm doesn't mean you don't care. It means you've chosen clarity over chaos. So, when your mind starts racing tonight, remember this. You don't have to believe every thought that visits you. You can question it. You can breathe before reacting. And sometimes, the wisest move is to do nothing until your mind grows quiet again. I want you to try this. Tonight, when your thoughts start spinning, write down one of them. Then ask, can I control this? If not, cross it out. That's how Stoics clear mental space, one useless worry at a time. If this lesson resonates, give this video a thumbs up. It helps others who might be stuck in their own thoughts find a way out too. And subscribe, because in the next part, we'll explore how to train your mind to think with reason, not with fear. Tell me in the comments, what's one worry you're finally ready to cross off your list tonight? Part 3. The story of a restless mind. A few years ago, I met a retired teacher named John. 70 years old, still sharp, still kind, but haunted. He told me he couldn't stop replaying his past, things he said to his students, decisions he made with his family, chances he didn't take. "It's like my brain doesn't know how to rest," he said. I asked him, "When did that start?" He smiled, a little embarrassed. "Oh, I think around 1968. That's how overthinking works. It doesn't age, it just evolves. What used to be worry about grades becomes worry about children, then health, then the future. As if the mind always needs something to chew on. But the Stoics taught that peace doesn't come from solving every problem. It comes from realizing which ones deserve your energy. John began to practice a simple Stoic exercise I suggested. Journaling every night, not about what went wrong, but about what stayed steady. He wrote, "I woke up, I walked outside, I saw the sun." At first it felt childish. Then it became freeing. The habit trained his mind to notice what was real, not imagined. After a few weeks, he said, "You know, I still think a lot, but it's quieter now. My thoughts have stopped shouting." That's what happens when you stop feeding your mind with endless analysis. You give it something better to chew on, the present moment. Epictetus once said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view they take of them." John began to see that his past wasn't his enemy. His interpretation was. He started to forgive himself for being human, and that softened his grip on the stories that used to keep him awake. You might not be able to forget your past, but you can stop reliving it. You can look at your memories with the same calm a Stoic gives to the weather. Ah, there it is again, a cloud passing by. The truth is, overthinking often hides an unspoken fear, fear of losing control. But when you start seeing your thoughts as just passing visitors, that fear loosens. You realize you never had control over everything anyway, only over how you respond. So tonight, when your mind starts its familiar chatter, don't fight it. Just observe. Say to yourself, a thought is just a thought. That one sentence can create a quiet gap, and in that gap, peace can breathe again. If John could find stillness after 70 years of noise, so can you. If this story gives you something to reflect on, leave a like. It helps this message reach others who might need it tonight. Subscribe if you want to learn, with me, how to practice Stoic calm in a world that never stops talking. And in the comments, tell me, what story from your past do you want to look at differently? Not with guilt, but with grace. Part 4. Turning thought into clarity. There's nothing wrong with thinking deeply. The problem begins when thinking becomes spinning, when the mind starts running in circles faster than reason can follow. The Stoics never said stop thinking. They said, think rightly. Marcus Aurelius would wake each morning and write to himself, you will meet ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful people today, but you have the same power you always had. The power to choose your response. That's not pessimism, it's preparation. It's how he trained his mind to think clearly before the chaos began. Overthinking is like standing in a fog. You keep moving, but you're not getting anywhere. Stoic thinking is like lighting a lamp. You still see the same world, but with order and calm. Let's make that practical. Imagine you get an email that feels rude. The overthinker reads it 10 times, hears tone that isn't there, maybe even drafts replies they'll never send. The Stoic pauses, takes a breath, asks, is this worth my peace? He answers carefully, or not at all. That silence, that space between stimulus and response, that's freedom. This is what the Stoics practiced every day, the discipline of assent. It means you don't automatically believe every thought that crosses your mind. You examine it first. You ask, is this true? Is this useful? Does this lead me toward virtue or away from it? If it fails those tests, you let it go. That's not weakness. That's mastery. It's how you stop your emotions from hijacking your reason. When I teach this to my older clients, they often laugh and say, that's easier said than done. And they're right. It takes time. But like any skill, it grows with practice. Start with one moment a day. When you feel a wave of worry rising, say quietly, I'll think about this later, when I'm calm. You'll be amazed how often that moment passes, and the thought fades on its own. The goal isn't to empty your mind, it's to order it, to make it serve you, not haunt you. A calm mind isn't a blank one. It's a mind that knows what deserves attention and what doesn't. Remember, reason isn't cold, it's compassionate. The Stoic doesn't repress emotion. He refines it. He listens to fear, anger, and doubt, but he doesn't let them hold the pen that writes his story. So, try it today. When your mind starts spinning, pause and ask, is this thought building my peace or breaking it? If it's the latter, release it. If this message brings you a bit of calm, tap that like button. It helps more people find stillness in their own storms. Subscribe if you want to keep learning how to think, not react. And tell me below, what's one moment recently when you caught yourself overthinking? And how did you bring yourself back to clarity? See Part 5. The Stoic practice of letting thoughts pass. There's a moment in every overthinker's day when the mind won't stop. The replay of an old conversation, the worry about tomorrow, the what if that loops like background noise. You try to distract yourself, but it only grows louder. The Stoics faced the same storm, though their world was quieter than ours. They didn't fight their thoughts. They watched them pass. Epictetus used to say, it's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. That means the thought itself isn't the problem. Your attachment to it is. A Stoic treats thoughts like travelers at a busy station. They come, they go, some stay longer than others, but none are permanent guests. Try this. The next time a thought comes, maybe regret or fear, don't push it away. Just say, there you are. Watch it. Don't label it good or bad. You'll start to notice something strange. When you stop resisting, the thought loses its grip. A man once told me, I keep trying to silence my mind, but it keeps getting louder. I said, that's because you're arguing with it. Try listening instead. He did. He began treating his mind like a restless child, firm, patient, but not angry. The result? Peace. Not because he stopped thinking, but because he stopped wrestling with every thought. That's what Marcus Aurelius practiced when he wrote, "Be like the rock against which the waves break. It stands firm, and the raging sea falls still around it." He didn't stop the waves. He learned to stop being moved by them. You can do the same. When a painful memory comes, breathe. Let it drift by. You are the rock, the witness, not the storm. You don't have to fix every thought or defend yourself against every emotion. Just stand still and let time do its quiet work. Modern science backs this up. Mindfulness, the practice of observing thoughts without judgment, lowers stress, reduces anxiety, and rewires the brain for calm. The Stoics discovered that truth centuries ago by pure discipline. So tonight, when the mind starts to spin, remember this. You don't need to silence your thoughts. You only need to stop following them. If you felt something settle inside you while listening to this, give this video a like. It helps others find their way back to calm too. And subscribe, because in the final part, we'll talk about how to transform your overthinking into wisdom, how to make your thoughts serve your peace, not poison it. Tell me in the comments, what kind of thought keeps returning to you lately, and what happens when you simply watch it instead of fighting it? Part 6. Turning overthinking into wisdom. Let's end with this thought. The Stoic doesn't aim for a silent mind. He aims for a steady one, a mind that can think deeply without drowning in its own depth. When you learn to pause before reacting, to question before believing, something changes inside you. Thought stops being a cage and becomes a compass. That's what overthinking can become. Raw material for wisdom if you learn to shape it. Take Marcus Aurelius. Every night, he'd write reflections not to impress anyone, but to clean his own mind. He examined his day, what he felt, what he feared, where he stumbled. That was his therapy. He turned overthinking into philosophy, fear into clarity. You can do the same. When a thought keeps returning, don't rush to silence it. Ask why it keeps knocking. Sometimes it's not asking for control, it's asking for closure. Write it down, face it honestly, then ask, is this useful to think about, or is it just familiar? Most of what we call overthinking is just the mind's attempt to feel safe again. But the Stoic learns to find safety not in certainty, but in character, in being steady no matter what comes. That's the strength age should give us, not the illusion of control, but the peace of acceptance. When you stop overthinking, you don't lose your depth, you refine it. Your mind becomes like a clear lake, still, but not empty. Reflective, not reactive. So the next time your thoughts start spinning, remember this. Don't try to stop them. Guide them. Ask them what they want to teach you, then let them go. That's the Stoic way. Not to escape your mind, but to master it gently. If this series helped you find even a small bit of calm, give the video a like. It helps the message reach others still trapped in their thoughts. And if you want more lessons on Stoic peace, self-mastery, and resilience, subscribe. Join a space where thought becomes wisdom. Before you go, I want to ask you one thing. What's one thought you've carried for too long and are finally ready to release? Share it in the comments. You never know who might need to read it tonight.